We start at the Mishnah. Chavite Kain Gadol, Tzadik Vav, right? 96. Right? The loaves of the Kain Gadol that he would bring, half of it would be brought every morning, and half of it would be brought in the afternoon.
What type of loaf was this?
This was it was flour with oil, and what else was there? Was there levina? I don't think there was levina.
Or semi-fried? I forget.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was.
Okay.
Anyone remember? I don't remember.
Okay.
Lishosan varichosan vafiyasan. It's baked. Yeah. Bifnim. It's kneading it. The arrangement of the loaf and the baking it is all done in the temple. Rashi points out that the measuring that was used for it, the measuring utensil, was a half a nisaran. And a half a nisaran, everyone agrees, was sanctified. The whole machlekes that we had before is dry measure sanctified. That's only by a full nisaran. Why is that? Because by the full nisaran, there was a concern also that people may measure it, and then take it out of the temple. But this, that was for the Kohen Gadol, that wasn't a concern. One of the commentators had a very interesting question. He said, if by the Chavite Kohen Gadol they also had to measure out the oil. I forget where I saw that. And if there's oil, has nothing to do with this the oil. Everyone agrees that liquids are sanctified and it needs to be in the temple. It's nothing to do with what Rashi is saying, that because that half a nisaran was measured. Anyway, whatever. The next thing is v'deichsas Shabbos. It pushes off Shabbos. That means it's done on Shabbos. All of the arrangements. Why? Because if we say that it could be done outside the temple, then it could have been done the day before. But if it's done in the temple, that means that it was used, that a holy vessel was used. It becomes sanctified. So then it needs to be done in the temple. If it needs to be done in the temple, then it can't be done the day before, because if it's left overnight, it becomes possible. Tchinasan v'harkadasan, the grinding it. Harkada is the sifting of it. Eina yideiches Shabbos. That already could be done before, because that's not used. That's not with holy vessels. Klal Amar Rabbi Akiva says a rule. Kol malacha shefshala seisem erev Shabbos eina deiches Shabbos. Anything that could be done before Shabbos does not push off Shabbos. Shefshala la seisem erev Shabbos deiches Shabbos. Anything that could be done before. So in our case, the grinding and the sifting of the flour, that could be done before Shabbos, so it doesn't push off Shabbos. This is a rather long Mishnah, so bear with me here. It's in the Mishnayos, it's broken up into like 4 or 5 Mishnayos, but the Gemara doesn't break up the Mishnayos the same way in the Mishnayos book it's broken up. Some say that actually the Gemara wasn't originally printed with the Mishnayos in the center of. They just put the perek at the beginning, and then the Gemara explained the whole perek, and then later printers put the Mishnayos in. Anyway, sometimes we have different versions of the Mishnayos from the Gemara to the Mishnah. Here it says, "Kol menachos yesh b'maisa keli bifnim." Any mincha that needs to be done with a vessel, that goes inside. But bein b'maisa keli, that could be done b'chutz. I'm not sure what it's referring to, but something that's not used. Maybe if it's just plain soilus. Tosfos explains our Mishnah that it's referring to the things that don't require a holy vessel, which is referring to the grinding and the sifting. So that could be done outside. Okay. Shtei alechem, the 2 loaves of bread which are brought on Shavuos, Orkan Shiva Tvachim, their length is 7 Tvachim long.
More than 2 amas.
Actually,
Sorry, more than an amma.
more than an amma, yeah.
More than an amma. An amma is 6 tefachim, right?
Usually. We'll see here, it's not so simple.
Mm-hmm.
Berachban Bais Tvachim, they're wide 4 Tvachim, V'kanesea Arba Etzbais. And the corners are 4 Etzbais. We'll see what the corners mean. That they would attach dough to the corners of it, and it would make it either rise up or protrude out 4 Etzbais.
Doesn't mean the thickness of the bread?
That's for people that learn Rambam. The Rambam learns that it means he doesn't, for some reason, he doesn't learn corners as just corners. He learns that the whole thickness of the bread was 4
If you're
four
doing
Etzbais.
the thing, it would make sense.
When you do the math,
If you want to give measurements, you give height, width, and then
yeah.
otherwise they can make the bread this thick,
Otherwise,
that thick, and
right.
like
So one of the commentaries here said that he tried to use this measurement to see if he can get it to go so big, and then he took issue with the way the Rambam explained it, because he says he wasn't able to get it to be so thick the whole way across. I think the Taisus Yom Tov to that.
you're pretty. It's supposed to be matzah, so
cake.
it'd be pretty. It's called lechem.
Yeah.
Or the bread. It's loaf
Didn't
bread.
they say before he used something about karnaisa that they wouldn't fall? The one of the boat that has something about karnaisa.
Yeah, well, I forget what that was. Was that a karnaisa? That was
I think-
snifim or something?
Something like that, where
Yeah.
there was something out of
That
the
would held
bread
it up.
that
Yeah, we said there was some attachment to it. Some attachment to it. Right. Okay. So we have here a 7 by 4 and then 4 etzbais. We're talking about the Shtei Alechem. That's on Shavuos. Lechem Apanim. This is the one that's all year long, every week. Arkan Yud Tvachim, Berachban Hei Tvachim.
That's a big
Its length is 10 Tvachim. Its width is 5 Tvachim. The karnais of Sheva Etzbais. And the corners are 7 Etzbais. It's big. Etzbais are not Tvachim, but it has this long attachment to it, to the corners. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shlei Titer, Rabbi Yehuda says, in order so that no one makes a mistake, Zadad Yehaz. What does this remind you of? The Tzach Hadash Ba'achav, right? Rabbi Yehuda Hayanaisim B'em Simanim. It's the same Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda makes sure that you don't forget. He gives you these mnemonics. We're dealing with master educators. This is like in all education, like you can get the best from the Gemara. As you have, how are you supposed to remember? 744, and this is 1057. He makes it into a word, and we have in English also Roy G. Biv or whatever they have these. It's my aunt Sally, something. Okay, lahavdil. Ben Zayma Aimer. Ben Zayma says, "V'nasata ala shulchan lechem panim lefanai tamid." You will place on the table lechem panim. Maybe it means showbread in front of me always. However, the Mishnah learns it that lechem panim shiu leipinim. Now, it says bread with a face. Either it means that it should have a face. That means that it should be folded up so it has walls, as if it has like an entranceway, like that's considered the face. Or shiulei pinim means that it should have corners. Pinim could also mean a corner.
Who says pinning?
Let me see where I got that from.
It says panim, and then it should be read the shita mekubetzes.
Do you have? Do they have vowels in yours?
Here it says
You know,
panim.
I got it from. I got it from the Mishnah, the article Mishnayos, because it's not in here. You know, the one up here.
So it should have corners.
Yeah. What does it mean? Called pino? That means on every
corner.
Interesting. Okay, hashulchan. We just discussed the bread, but what does the bread go on? It goes on the table. You have to have a table that could fit this bread. So hashulchan arka yod v'rach b'chamisha. It's long 10 and it's wide 5. So really, you could lay this down just like a matzah because it's exactly the same size, right? But that's not how they did it. Lechem apanim arka yod v'rach b'hei. And the lechem apanim itself was long 10 and wide 5. Exactly the same measurement as the shulchan. But what they would do is, nice and arka keneged rachbay. They put the length corresponding to the width, shel shulchan. Well, now it's going to hang over 5. But they didn't just put it on one end, so they put it in the center. So then how much is left over on each side? And then they would fold up 2.5 here and 2.5 here. So let's say
what would fold up?
Well, the table was wide 5 and long 10.
Right.
The lechem apanim was wide 5 and long 10. But I took the long part and I put it down here, along here. This is the table.
So he has 2 10. He has 2 5s.
So I have 2 5s. But I put the middle 5 here. Now I have 2.5 on each side. So I fold up of the bread. So I fold up 2.5 here.
Fold up is what? The bread?
The bread.
They bend it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a U shape. That's what we were saying before.
Yeah. It's a little strange that it says kaifel. Wasn't it in a mold inside the oven? And here it says kaifel. It sounds like it was already molded, but whatever the case is, it was folded up here. 2.5 tvachim. 2.5 tvachim.
Well, it doesn't have to be that kaifel means that they folded it
shape.
after it was baked.
Right.
It could
means
be
it
that
was
they
folded.
shaped.
Right.
But if you would have flattened it out, it would be 10
Right.
long.
Right.
So there were 2 lechem apanim. There were only
No, all lechem
3.
apanim.
No, we had 12. So, but
I'm talking about the 2 that were doubled up on the 10. The width is 10 at this point.
So I could fit 5. This is 5 tvachim here, right? And it's long 10. So I folded up 5 by 5. Now it turns out that it's a 5 by 5, but it's up to it. It's tall 2.5.
What do you mean it's 5 by 5? If you take 2.5 from each side?
Yeah. 2.5 from each side makes it that it's only 5 long.
5's up in the air.
And it's 2.5 in the air.
On each side, right?
2.5 on each side, yeah. Well, 5, yeah. There's 5 in there, but it's, if I'd
But
measure.
there's 2 tvachim in the middle.
Oh, 1 second. Before the 2 tvachim, there's no. That's a different opinion. Here, how wide was it? It was 5 tvachim wide.
The shulchan.
The shulchan.
And-
My
long?
bread was. My shulchan is long
10.
10. So I've used up the width already. I've used up half of the length and all the width. Now I go over there and I do exactly the same thing with the other one. So I have there is not a single drop of space on the table that doesn't have bread on it. Right? I have 2 rows of
Carbs delight.
carbs. Really? Okay. Nice and okay. Can I go over? Okay. Nimtza orke mimali reich v'shel shulchan. That means that the length fills up the width of the table. Div Rabbi Yehuda. This is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Why are we saying this is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion? Well, there's a discussion really how big the table is. The pasuk tells us how big it is. What does the pasuk say? That the table is 2 tvachim by 2 ames by 1 amma. Rabbi Yehuda says that the amma, that the vessels are made with, the measuring stick that the vessels are made with, are 5 tvachim. So if it's 1 by 2, so then it's 5 by 10, 10 by 5. Reb Meir says no. Hashulchan Aruch Yud Beis V'Rach Bevav. They had a special building amma, an amma that was used for the vessels, and that amma was 6 tvachim. That means if it's 2 tvachim, it's 12. If it's 2 amas, then it's 12 tvachim. And how wide is it? 6 tvachim. how big is the lechem apanim though? Lechem apanim is arka yud v'rach beihei. Lechem apanim they agree is the same size. There's no machlekes about that. There's no machlekes how big the size of lechem apanim. There's only machlekes about the size of the table. So noisin arka keneged rach b'shel shulchan. Here, you put the length. You put 10 amas onto a 6 amma table. 10, not 10 amas. 10 tvachim onto a 6 tvachim table. How much are you going to fold up in total? 4, but it will be 2 on each side instead of 2.5 now, because the table is a tefach bigger, 2 tvachim bigger, 6 instead of it's 1 tefach bigger. It's one so because it's 6 instead of 5, so the 2 halves I can take off. Now this is what Reb Chaim you were saying. You see, the length of the table was 12, as opposed to, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it was 10. So I have 2 extra tvachim. So because the width of the bread was only 5 tvachim, so I have 2 rows of 5. I have 2 tvachim in the center that are left over. So that the wind should be able to go through it, because if you leave it all tightened up, it will get moldy. Tell me.
He says over here that the lechem apanim was arkan asar tvachim v'rachman chamisha tvachim.
According to both opinions.
Each one was rachman chamisha tvachim?
Yeah.
All of them?
Each one.
So, how could you fit that many? Take 12 times 5 times.
You pile them up.
5.
They went up 12. It's a high riser. Each one, I fit 2 rows on the table. It's machlekes if there was 2 extra tvachim in the center, but I fit 2 rows on the table, and then I folded it up. Question: 2.5 tvachim or 2 tvachim? Was it folded up? It's machlekes. What's not clear?
The folding is rough.
Because how's it gonna stack when it's folded? Is that the question? Should be
Never mind.
Should be
This
their
is not
supports.
helpful.
Okay.
Whatever. It is what it is.
Abashol says, Shamha Yenesin Shnei Bezichi Levayna Shalechem Apanim. Abashol is following in Reb Meir's opinion. I wish I had more information about Abashol. He's frequent. I just don't know. Is he a student of Reb Meir, or because he's following here Reb Meir's opinion that in that 2 tvachim space, you could put the 2 spoons of the lechem apanim. You can put the 2 spoons of levayna. Amrloi, they said to Abashol, Harei kvar nemar v'nasata ala mareches levayna zaka. You should put on the when it has mareches, the row, the arrangement, levayna zaka. That means on top. Amalehem Harei kvar nemar v'alav mata Menachem. It says by the camping and by the traveling, it says that next to I guess Ephraim or whatever was there was Menachem, and it doesn't mean on top; it means next to. So the word, this machlekes here, what the word alav means. It doesn't mean on or next to. They said it means on, which meant on top. He says no, it means next to, and he has a good proof. He brings a source. Okay. Arba snifim shel zav hayusham. There were 4 supports of gold. Mifutalim meant that there was like an indent, a groove, or a branch. Mirashayim on the top. Shiyusemchem behem, that they could use as supports. Shnayim l'seder zeh, u'shnayim l'seder zeh. 2 for this one and 2 for that one. That means because they had 2 rows, 2 arrangements of bread. V'chavches kanim kechatzi kane chalal, and then they had 28 kanim are like rods, literally reeds, but it's rods that were actually half pipes. cut it down the long way. So in Arba, so let's say the Zev, Yudalit, let's say the Zev, 14 for each side. If there's 28, so 28 and a half is 14. So how were they positioned? If I remember correctly, they were.
Why do you need 14?
It really should be 15, right? Because there's 6 on each one. So I need 5. I need 3 in between each bread.
3 or 2?
3 in between each bread. The problem is that should be 15, right? Because 3 times 5 is 5 spaces. But if I remember correctly, the top only had 2. The top one only had 2. The lower ones had 3, and the top one only had 2, so that made it 14. And then so for each side, it was 14 plus 14 is 28. The arrangement of these rods and taking them out is not Deicha Shabbos. Well, now you have a problem because the breads are put on Shabbos and they're taken off on Shabbos. And if you can't remove the rods on Shabbos, how are you going to do this? You're going to have to leave them in place. And the way they did it is they just pushed out the old ones with the new ones.
Okay.
And you're not going to be able to keep the rods in place.
What do you mean the rods had a hole that went through and through?
Well, what would happen is
There was a hole through it.
you see, this is the table. So it went across from this pole to this pole, and the breads were placed on that. But you couldn't get the breads wouldn't go out like that. The breads would go out. If the rods are there, you're going to have a difficulty. So the way it would work was, because you couldn't do all of this work on Shabbos, they would actually take the rods out before Shabbos. The nice and they would just put them on the side by the table.
So on Shabbos there's no rods.
In the Shabbos there were no rods. And when they would put the breads on Shabbos, they would put it on without rods. They would come after Shabbos and they would slide the rods in.
They would just be stacked up one on top of another.
Yeah.
How would you stack up a boat? Pretty rough. That's
Big mess.
Yeah.
unless the horns were really strong to
I don't know.
settle them.
I don't know. Kala kelim she'im mikdash arkan la'arka shel Bais. It's an interesting statement. All the vessels that were in the mikdash, their length went to the length of the house. So we're talking about the shulchan. Okay, the mizrach l'mayrav was like this. Okay, this was mizrach l'mayrav. This is mizrach and this is mayrav. That's the kodesh hakadashim, right? That's the mizbeach out there in the back. So you walked into the house, you would see the table, the length of the table going along the length of the house. Mm-hmm. And the same with the menorah. This is the surprising thing. Because kol hakelim, you would see the length of the menorah going along the length of the house. There's machlekes, there's another sheet.
There's a side. It was the side.
Yeah, it was along the
Like
side,
if you
along the
came in,
long wall.
If you came in, looked straight to Kodesh Kodashim, everything would be side.
Yeah, if you walked in, you wouldn't see like the all 7 candles like that. You would just see like the lights, like you know, like
landing strip.
What about the what about the luchas? They were also on the length.
the opposite.
They were on the.
But you didn't see those.
Kol hakelim, the aron. So the aron was.
Tanya, chutz mi'aron, shark l'erich v'shel Bais. And then he says over here, however, you should know, b'shulchan mar pligi Rabbi v'Rebbe Elazar bar Shimon, masnisin is Rebbe. They were mizrach mayrav Menachem. If you do ever get a chance to go through the Rebbe's piece on the menorah, the Rebbe learns that the Rebbe takes this into the equality between people. If people are equal in their Torah observance or in their mitzvah observance, where is the because if you have the menorah facing this way, then the ner tamid, which one? It says the ner tamid is the one that's not to the mayrav. It says which one is the mayrav? There's no mayrav like that because they're all equal. It says here I have a ner maravi, right? So and then he discusses the. Okay. Where is that quote from? That is the Gemara is going to discuss this Tzadik Ches. Okay. The Gemara says, "Kol menachos yesh b'hem ma'aseh keli mibifnim." All menachos that have a vessel need to be done inside. Sholas Rabbi Zuminayin. They asked Rabbi, "How do you know that menachos need a vessel?" Amar lahem. He says, "Hari Oimer." It says in the pasuk, "Vayomer Eily." It's a pasuk in Yecheskel. And he said to me, this is Yecheskel's prophecy, this is the place where the kohanim shall cook. It says, actually in the pasuk, it says, Esa Osham v'esa Chatas. It's opposite from what it says in our text. Asher yoifu esa mincha, levilti hoitzi alachatzer chitzayin lekadosh esa'am. There they will bake the mincha, not to take into the outer courtyard, where to sanctify the people. So, dumya da asham v'chatas. There's a comparison here between a mincha and an asham and a chatas. Now, ma asham v'chatas tunum keli. By a chatas it says asher yivashlu. That has to be cooked. The chatas has to be cooked. If it has to be cooked, that means that you need a vessel. You can't cook without a vessel. You can bake without a vessel, but you can't cook without a vessel. So, af mincha nami tunum keli. So we're comparing a chatas to a mincha, that you need to have a vessel that you're cooking it in. Even though you're not cooking it, you're baking it, but it still needs to be in a vessel. Okay, Shulchan Arkei Asara. The Shulchan was long, 10 tefachim. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. This may give you some clarity. Chaim. According to the opinion that says that you have to fold it up 2.5 tefachim, which opinion is this? This is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that says that the Shulchan was only 10 tefachim and 10 by 5. So you had to fold it up 2.5. Nimtza shulchan mekadesh chamisha tvachim lamayla. What comes out is that the sanctity of the shulchan, usually what's in the vessel, becomes sanctified. We had a whole discussion. If what gets piled up, gedushin, if what gets piled up becomes sanctified, birutzin, if what flows over gets sanctified. Remember that? So Rabbi Yochanan says that according to this, the shulchan sanctifies 15 tvachim up. 2.5 times 6. 2 times 6 would be 12. Plus a half times 6 would be 3. So it's 15 tvachim up. Right? Even though it's not in the shulchan, but the shulchan, the
Didn't we say the 2.5 tvachim were the width, not the height?
No, it was the length of the
Shulchan stand.
Yeah, that's this way.
Right, but you said
now
you
the
turned
bread.
it around.
No, we're going to leave the shulchan like this. The bread was also 10, but I'm not putting the bread along the table. I'm putting the bread this way. Okay. So now I take, it's 5 in the center. I take 2.5 tvachim and fold it up right here, and then I put another one on top and fold it up.
So
I have 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 6 of those 2.5s going up. That's 15 tvachim.
So it doesn't say what the height of the lechem aponim was?
No, it doesn't tell us the thickness unless I
No,
learn
not
the
the
Rambam.
thickness. I'm talking, okay, arkan,
Right,
rachvam.
right. Doesn't tell us that.
What's the height?
Doesn't tell us. All it tells us is that I fold it, and when I fold it, I know that it's 2.5 tvachim. According to the way you were saying the Rambam, then I know that it's 4 etzba'is thick. But
That doesn't help either. It doesn't tell you the
It doesn't
height.
tell me that. No, it
Nobody
would only tell me before it's
Nobody
folded.
tells you the height.
No, only after it's folded upwards do I know that it's 2.5 tvachim tall.
So the one who doesn't say that it's folded?
Everyone says it's folded. The question is, it's 2.5 or 2?
No, the one who said it was 12 tvachim says
He
it's
says
not
that it's folded 2 tvachim. Because he says that you still put the 10 on the 6 side. You put the 10 along the 6.
Difficult to find. So that's your height.
It's
Basically.
either 2.5 or 2, right? Right.
But you actually bake it originally like that?
That's what we learned before, that it was put into a mold.
So you bake it originally.
Yeah.
The koifel means just the height.
That it was folded, yeah. Not that you're folding as in the verb, but
now it sounds a lot better.
right.
To take the bread and
to fold it.
smash it. Well, koifel means that was the height. That
Right.
was like the terminology for height.
Right.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'm done.
So, according to the one that says that it was folded 2.5, so that means that the Shulchan was Mekadesh 15 Tvachim.
Yeah.
L'divrei Yomer Tvachayim Kaifel, according to the other opinion, which was the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Kaifel. I'm sorry, Tvachayim Kaifel. Nimtza Shulchan Mekadesh Yud Bais Tvachim L'mayla. It's only 12 Tvachim. Why? Because it's 2 times 6.
There's nothing in between.
Oh, 1 second. Very good. What's going on? You show up for 1 second, you already asked the whole Gemara.
I asked this question a long time ago.
You should see where he was beforehand. He was deep in,
This is what I was dreaming about.
yeah. Sitting with the
The
master.
Gemara asks for Yekakanim. What about the pipes that would go in between? The Gemara explains Kanim Shekui Mashkalu. The Kanim would sink in because they were half pipes. So it would sink into the upper one. So it would have like on the bread. Sometimes you have like you can see what it was baked on. The bagels. Sometimes they have like those things. So this would have the pipe marks on it. The Gemara asks, "My time. Why did we have the kanim there? Mishum pushe lechem. We don't want the bread to go bad. Now saif kamaf shalechem. If it sinks in, and it's exactly on the bread because it sinks in, so then it's going to go bad. You lose the point. The point was to allow the air in between. So it says no, the magvalu porta. Okay, so no, it's raised still a little bit. It doesn't sink all the way in. It's still raised. Gemara says veikahu porta. So then why are you telling me that it's 15 or 12? What about that little bit? Each one is raised. The Gemara explains, "Kiven layabi tefach lechashav lei." It wasn't a full tefach. We don't count it. We rounded it off. The Gemara asks, "Va'ika bazichen," but according to one opinion, the bazichen were not in the center between the loaves; they were on top of the bread. So Rabbi Yochanan said that it sanctifies 15 tefachim, but the bazichen are on top. The Gemara explains, "Begava the lechem haviyasvi." They were in the bread because it was folded up. So there was a space to put them in what they called the face of the bread that went inside. Bahadi lechem habikaimi, and they were together with the lechem. They didn't protrude above it. But you said that you added 7 tefachim for the kronis. It says legavi the lechem kayaflu. You folded them inward. Lechem alayu nachlei, and the bread was placed on top of them. So they had these corners that were sticking out. That was all folded in, and then the bread was placed on top of them.
Where were the corners of the table? Corners?
No, they were corners.